and today we'll be looking at the latest report on progress in education. And the question we'll be asking, are our children learning? Now, recently, the Uganda National Examination Board, under its National Assessment of Progress in Education initiative, released a report that has important data about critical issues that need to be reflected upon to ensure progress in the education sector. One of the key issues highlighted in this report is the significant divide between learners in urban and rural areas, as well as between those attending private versus public schools. Now, this stack of inequality underscores what so many people have been pointing as challenges faced by learners across the different educational environment, but generally speaking, the education system in Uganda. So we'll be looking deeply at this report to understand the issues therein, but also the recommendations that can help us to better the situation and to also consolidate the gains that have been made. Now, I have two officials from the National Assessment of Progress in Education initiative. Let me introduce Mrs. Joyce Ebal, who is the manager. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening.
Also in studio, Mr. Kennedy Jumanyol. He's a senior research officer in charge of data management at the same initiative, the National Assessment of Progress in Education, NAPE. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, thank you.
All right. I'll begin with you, the manager, Mrs. Joyce Ebal. If you can give us a brief background so that people can understand what the National Assessment of Progress in Education is all about, and the importance of these reports that you make from time to time.
Thank you very much. National Assessment of Progress in Education in Uganda is an assessment which is carried out to measure the national level of learners' achievement and monitor the changes in the achievement levels over time. This assessment is carried out before learners reach the final classes. At the primary level, this assessment is carried in P3 and P6. This is to give room for any corrective interventions to be made before these learners reach the final class. The assessment is carried out in numeracy and literacy at the primary level. The same kind of assessment is also carried out at the secondary level, and at the secondary level is conducted at senior 2. The main purpose of this is to monitor the teaching and learning progress.
All right. Now, you did launch a report recently. If you can tell us about that report, and maybe tell us some of the things that are featured highly in this report.
The most recent report is the 2023 NAPE report. This report is coming out of a survey which was carried out by UNEB in P3 and P6 in numeracy and literacy. Some of the key things which are coming out here is that generally we see that there is a slight improvement from 2018 to 2023. But also we notice that there is a general decline in the performance of P6 learners in literacy. We also observe that learners in the refugee schools are performing below the national level, with the girls most affected. We also observe that learners with the special needs, the two categories that were handled in this assessment were the blind and the deaf, and generally also their performance is below the national level.
All right, let's now try to dig deeper and look at the issues therein. You say the assessment is based on numeracy and literacy. Can we break down a little bit to understand exactly what featured in those particular areas? When you talk about numeracy, what reflection are we getting from this report? And I'll come to you, Kennedy.
Okay, thank you very much. Can give the results in two parts. One, start with the P3 learners. P3 generally overall in the country, we had 58% reaching the level where they're supposed to be. Because when we talk of a learner being rated proficient, that means you are looking at what does the curriculum expect this learner to be able to do, and is the learner there at that level? So that is so 58% of our learners are rated proficient in numeracy, and 54 are also rated proficient in literacy in English. And by gender, we see that the percentage.
Can you explain that a little bit so that the ordinary person can understand?
Okay.
This percentage, what do they mean?
Okay, good. It's like I want to compare it with somebody who goes to do a driving test. There's a minimum level that you're supposed to be. So you are looking at percentages of people who have gone for that test and have passed.
Okay.
That minimum. So if you know how to, for example, put on the lights, yes, that is good, but you have not reached the minimum, you are not counted. So here the curriculum specifies that, for example, at P3, learners are supposed to be doing this.
Okay.
So for us, we go out to find out how many or what percentage of learners are able to do what the curriculum expects them to do. So these percentages we are sharing are for people or learners who are at that level.
So out of the learners that you assessed in numeracy, 58% were able to get to the level that is desired. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
That's on the issue of numeracy. And in literacy, they were 54%. Now, the question is this fair enough? Is this a good picture?
Of course.
As an expert.
Even to the ordinary person, of course, in an ideal situation, we want the percentage to be as high as possible. Some countries have it very high, maybe 90 or so. But we are seeing progress, which is also probably good. We expect the trend to continue. Like it has already been said by Manager Nape, it is disappointing to see that in literacy in English at P6, the curve is coming down. Yeah. That is what is worrying.
All right. So that's at that level. What else did you see?
Yeah, by gender, we see that percentage of boys and girls were the same at numeracy, and then in literacy in English, more girls are rated proficient than boys at P3. By school location, that trend has been there for the assessment we have been doing. Learners in urban areas are doing much, much better than those in rural schools. Similarly, those in private schools are doing also much, much better than those in government schools. And then by district, we have only 19, because we looked at 136 districts, and only 19 have at least 75% of their learners reaching that minimum level that is required. On a disappointing note, of course, we have 10 districts which have less than a quarter of their learners reaching that level, and that's not good enough. In literacy, in English, we have 26 districts not reaching, only having a quarter of their learners reaching that level. So that's also not good enough. Yeah, that is the P3.
All right.
I can also share with you maybe P6.
P6, yeah.
Yeah, P6.
Semi-candidates.
Semi-candidate who are now candidate this year, because we assessed them last year. Yeah, so they are the candidate this year. In numeracy, we also had 58% rated proficient. In literacy in English, it dropped to 43, only 43, which is less than half even of the learners. By gender, more boys than girls were rated proficient. in numeracy. However, in literacy in English, more girls were rated proficient. And then by school location, the trend is still the same. Urban learners in urban areas doing better than learners in rural areas. School ownership, the trend is the same. Learners in private schools doing better than learners in government schools. In terms of districts, because we also have the results for each district, 16 districts have done well. At least 75% of their learners are rated proficient. However, 6 districts had less than a quarter of their learners rated proficient in numeracy. The story is not very good for literacy in English, where only 48 districts, only 4 districts had at least 75% of their learners rated proficient, but a total of 48 districts have less than a quarter of the learners at P6 rated.
So for P3, we observed that these learners were having problems in numeracy, application of addition to word problems. Areas where they are asked to apply addition, but this is put in a word form, it was quite difficult for them to handle. The learners were able to handle direct addition. If you say 20 plus 10, they do it.
Using the symbol.
Using the symbols. But when you say, for example, you sold 2 mangoes in the morning, in the afternoon you sold 3, how many mangoes did you sell in the day? Now, so it becomes a problem. They cannot solve such problems.
What do you think is the problem there?
This problem could be related to reading. We are already seeing that there is a problem in literacy in English. So this problem could be extended to the numeracy side as well.
Okay.
In P3, literacy in English, they were having challenges in completing stories. These are guided compositions where they're given a story representing information.
That's what they call what? Is that what they call comprehension or what?
This is more or less reading comprehension.
Reading comprehension.
Yes.
Okay.
And trying to help them learn how to come up with creative writing.
All right.
As well later.
All right.
P6. So in P6, we have the learners are having problems in representing information, graphical representation of information in form of bar graph, histogram, charts, and so on. And in literacy in English, use of compound nouns in a guided composition. Still here, they are guided, they are to fill in, but they are using compound nouns. Compound nouns are words that are made up of 2 nouns, 2 or more nouns. For example, a playground, play and ground. So that makes a compound noun. So we see that P6 learners were having challenges around that area as well. So these are what the study pulled out. Where is the problem? So the areas of difficulties are some of those that we have put in there.
All right, Kennedy. When you talk about the problem of reading, comprehension, addition, what is the problem? Is it the teachers? Is it lack of textbooks? Is it practice? What exactly could be the problem in that particular area?
Okay, thank you. This time we did not collect data on what could be the problem, but I can share with the listeners experience of other reports, because in the previous report we collected such data. One of them was participation of parents, especially in government school. It's not so much. We compared it. We found parents of learners in private schools are more active. They go to schools, they hold schools accountable, but in government schools they have kind of resigned. Then the other issue is also feeding, because in private schools, for example, and even urban schools generally, children are able to eat.
I think that one you're explaining the divide between the government and private schools, not so?
Yes.
I wanted us to specifically focus on the issue of the fact that the children are not able to read and comprehend stories. What could be the gap there? Is it the quality of teachers there? Is it lack of practice? Is it lack of textbooks? What impedes reading?
Yeah, there are also many things. Some of them are teacher-based, some of them are also learner-based. For example, in some of the schools when we went some time ago, we found books. Government, yes, supplied books, but the books are there in the stores. In one case, we asked the head teacher why the books were in his office intact. He said if he has the learners, will make them dirty. So he had given them conditions to buy a bag first before they could give them. So yes, there are cases where books are there, but they're not in the hands of the learners. That is also a problem. There are also cases where the books are not there. There are cases where, for example, we have large classes. One teacher is teaching over 300 learners, so it becomes difficult for the teacher also to attend to each learner difference. Yeah.
All right. And in that particular regard, do you have any particular recommendation on that issue of pupils not being able to read and comprehend? Do you have any particular recommendation that you're making in that regard, Madam?
Yeah, the recommendations that we are making with regards to reading, first of all, we are recommending that teachers should help the learners to learn, guide them, and help them to learn how to read and to write those creative compositions.
Are the teachers themselves okay? Are they able to read and they do even the work that they are giving these pupils? That's also another aspect.
Yeah, we have also made recommendations to teacher trainers that teachers should also be helped. They should be helped to see how to teach these areas that we have highlighted. So there are recommendations for teacher trainers, for the CCTs to come in to help the in-serving teachers, so that we have refresher courses for these teachers regarding these particular areas that we have highlighted.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, let's move on. There's a place where you had begun explaining the divide between the rural and the urban schools. That issue has persisted for quite some time. What were you able to see? What are the reasons why the performance is like it has been reflected in the report?
Yeah, one I had already mentioned, the parental involvement in the private schools and those also in urban. Also, the issue of feeding came up because learners in private schools are able to eat something at lunchtime, for example, but those in government schools, the parents have let them go. They more or less fend on their own. We also have issues of, for example, we have market days. Some schools, especially in the villages, the market days, and you find learners don't come to school on those days. They go to offer labor in the market. So the issue of absenteeism of the learners. And sometimes both learners and teachers also comes in here. Yeah.
All right. And Madam, do these kind of findings probably provide the general picture? Because sometimes when the results of UNEP come out, when you look at the performance, most schools that perform better are normally in urban areas than those that are in rural areas. Could this be the problem generally? And what are some of the key issues therein that you think need to be addressed going forward?
Yeah, as Kennedy has already mentioned, and from the report that we have seen, there is generally a similar trend at end cycle. In P7, you still see that the urban schools are doing better than the rural. Now, the importance of this study is that this has been highlighted at this point, and we are seeing that there is this challenge that needs to be addressed. So we are saying that rural schools need to be helped. Ministry of Education should put in more effort to see that the learners in the rural schools are helped. In this study, learners also told us that they have challenges with reading materials. They don't have those storybooks and so on that could help them enhance their reading skills. So we are saying that learners should be provided. The rural schools need to be supported in terms of those reading materials. Also, the teachers should be supported. The teachers could be okay, but if they don't have the materials that they can use to help them teach, then they can also not perform. So availability of materials is very important. And parents should also come in. This idea where we leave everything that it is for government is not okay. Government cannot do everything for us. And for me, I always say that who is government? We are government. The top there are our representatives. So all of us need to come in and support these children. So parents should play their role, give the learners the scholastic materials that they need. From this study, one of the learners, because we held also focus group discussions with the P6, said he has one book which he uses for all the subjects. He's writing math there, he's writing literacy there, he's doing science there, he's SST there, one book. So you look at that kind of thing, the challenge that the learner is going through. So support should be given to the learners in the rural areas.
All right. Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. A topic of discussion today, we are looking at the latest report on progress in education that is from the National Assessment of Progress in Education that is under Uganda National Examinations Board. My guest this evening, Mrs. Joyce Ebal, the manager at that particular initiative, which is abbreviated as NAPE, and Mr. Kennedy Jumanyol, a senior researcher in the same department where he is in charge of data management. Keep your comments coming via our WhatsApp line, which is 0703 090 090. Tell us what you think about the findings here that we're discussing in this report. When we return, we'll continue digging deeper in some of the other findings and also the recommendation. Now, stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. We'll continue after this break. Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. My name is Kenneth Lukwagandason, your host. My guest this evening, Mrs. Joyce Ebal, the manager, National Assessment of Progress in Education. Mr. Kennedy Jumanyol, senior research officer in charge of data management at the same organization. And we're looking at their latest report about progress in education, and the question we're asking are our children learning. We have looked at a number of issues, numeracy and literacy at both primary and secondary level, and there's an improvement depending on what you saw last time when the report was released, but also there's a stark revelation about the continuous divide between rural-based and urban-based schools, something that has always also been reflected in the results that have come out from the Uganda National Examinations Board. Now, let's look at some of these statistics that you presented. One would ask, if you look at the rural and the urban divide, in terms of population, where are most of the students, pupils or students based? For us to have a targeted intervention. If we were to make a cost-benefit analysis, as far as intervention is concerned, where are the numbers?
The numbers in terms of rural-urban, they are in rural. Yeah, even in this sample, the majority of them were in the rural. Yes.
All right. And in order to deal with that particular divide, if you're to recommend to the Minister of Education that superintends over issues of learning in this country, what kind of advice are you giving there?
Yeah, of course, in terms of recommendation, we are saying more effort should be put there, probably in terms of resource allocation. We have also shared this report with the education development partners, some of whom have picked interest in some districts, and there are actually intervention in those districts, and we are seeing improvement in results in those districts where they have interventions. Yeah.
Madam, would you like to come in?
Yeah, our report gives detailed performance of the districts. And this could be, can guide the ministry if they would like to make some intervention, and any other interested party who would like to come in and render assistance. The hit areas can be seen from our data. The detailed report has that.
All right. And in terms of districts, what do you think has determined the performance of these districts? Why are we seeing districts performing differently? What are some of the issues you were able to point out in terms of all these districts? Because from the statistics you shared, there are some districts which are actually performing poorly. What exactly is the issue?
Now, the study did not get into the details for what is the issue for each particular district. But as Kennedy has said, there are some districts that we have seen that have made tremendous improvement. In the previous reports, they were performing also poorly. One example is Kalangala. Kalangala had been performing poorly, but we have seen great improvement from 2018. And what we found out is that some development partners moved in after seeing the trend, and they had made their great interventions, and we are seeing improvement in these areas. So there's need for getting into those districts and finding exactly what is their challenges, and then putting in the interventions that can help improve the performance of those learners.
All right. We have some comments that are coming in from the listeners. I would like to read out some of them even as we continue with the discussion. We have a comment coming in from Benon Freddy Twinamas, who says, during their study, did they try to look at the implementation of the thematic curriculum that emphasized teaching in local languages to make children get the concepts at primary level? How are the results of their study in regard to the new lower secondary curriculum? Is it a magic bullet? How did they take care of the diversity in pupils, students' background during their study? And then he says, thanks for the show. Then we have another one. Did your research tackle learning disabilities of pupils like autism, hyper or hypoactive disorders, etc.? Since last year, 20,000 children from eastern Uganda failed PLE flat and square. Well, those are some of the comments that are coming in now, but we do encourage more listeners to actually share their comments, and then we'll give you an opportunity to respond to them. Let's move on and look at the issue of children with special needs. What kind of children did you look at, and the performance at that level, and probably what impacts the performance when you look at the statistics you gathered?
Yeah, thank you. We looked at two categories of special education needs. That is the blind and the deaf. We did not look at the other categories. I think that can help to answer the comment from one of the listeners. I will start with those who are blind, learners who are blind. In literacy in English, both P3 and P6 learners were comparable with the national level of performance, so there was not much difference as far as literacy in English is concerned. However, their achievement in the numeracy was very low. So in literacy in English, they were comparable, but in numeracy, it was very low. At P3 class, girls were better in numeracy than boys, while there was no difference in the achievement between boys and girls in literacy in English. At P6 class, the boys were slightly better than the girls in both numeracy and literacy. That is the learners who are blind. For learners who are deaf, at P3 class, the achievement was comparable with the national level of achievement also. At P6 class, however, the achievement in both numeracy and literacy in English was very low compared to the national level. So we see a problem, a big decline at P6 among the deaf. Yes.
All right. And we know there are particular implements that children with special needs require to be able to learn. When you did this study, is it one issue that you came across? Are they sufficiently facilitated? Do they have them? Do they have these facilities to be able to support them in terms of learning? And probably the recommendation you'd make in that particular regard.
Okay, maybe I can say one or two things, then my senior will come in. There were two, within these categories, there were also two. There were those who were in the special schools, then there were those who were in the inclusive school. Inclusive school means they are learning together with other learners. So in the inclusive school, some of the facilities and even the special needs personnel are not there. So certainly that would impact their performance because they are mixed with other learners and the teachers are trying their best to do. We did not dig deeper into the other factors which could have impacted on this for the other learners who are in the specialized school.
Yes, madam.
Yeah, with the learners with the special needs, for special needs learners, we try also in this assessment to see that we cater for their disability. For example, the learners, the blind, we ensure that they had Braille, so they are able to read using Braille. The learners who are deaf, we had also the interpreters for them that would help them as they are carrying out doing the assessment. So we try to modify this assessment to suit them.
All right, and then there's the issue of the refugees, the children who are here in Uganda by account of trouble in the countries where they were originally born. What is their situation like in terms of learning? The picture that has been created out here, that is so many development partners are actually supporting the learning of these children. What exactly is the picture when you look at what is happening with them?
Good. Now, this report is not about the refugee learners. It is about the schools hosting the refugees because they learn together with the Ugandan children. So the factors they are subjected to is most of the time the same. So at P3 and P6 class, we found out that more boys than girls were rated proficient in both numeracy and literacy. The boys are doing better. And then we also found out that their achievement in numeracy and literacy was very low compared to the national level. That is what is coming out. So probably also more effort is needed to raise their results. They are below the national level. Yeah.
All right. Those are schools in refugee...
Schools hosting.
Refugee hosting communities.
Yes.
All right. Right. Let's look at some of the comments that have already come in and see how you can respond to them. We had 2 comments at that particular time, and the people were interested in a number of issues. If I can just remind you, somebody wanted to know whether you looked into the implementation of the thematic curriculum and how it impacts on the learning of the children, how the results of their study, how your results actually regard the new lower secondary curriculum. Is it a magic bullet? How did you take care of the diversity of the students or pupils during this study? We have another comment that has actually been added on. Have we considered that some districts may be better placed to do vocational subjects as opposed to conventional courses of English, numeracy, and the like? Another comment from Abe Kwizera, who is listening in from Kawempe, says his worry is an A-level teacher is the current senior force student. This year, he says his worry as an A-level teacher is the current senior force students this year going to sit for a new curriculum, UCE exams. And after 4 years, in new curriculum next year, they will join from 5 in the old curriculum, which is far different. Do you really expect them to catch up with the old curriculum? Won't they fail to pass USCE exams after their 2 years of A-level? Also, the A-level curriculum needs to be revised. By now, they have to cover up big volume of curriculum in less than 2 years, yet majority of what they study is relevant in the contemporary world. For example, why should we be teaching things like Canadian Pre-Release, the 1789 French Revolution, the ancient West African history, and so on? Can't we switch to more relevant and practical subjects that can help learners apply in the contemporary world? That's a comment coming in from Abe Kwizera. Let's get some of the responses that are coming in.
Okay. We were not able to do it at secondary. So this result is at primary only. Did the implementation of the thematic curriculum affect? We did not specifically tease out that, whether it affected or not. But maybe I can also say something about the curriculum, the thematic curriculum, because sometimes people think that teaching the thematic curriculum means you are teaching all the subjects in the local language, which is not true. In the thematic curriculum, you have a subject which is called English. So teachers are supposed to teach that in English. The other one is in local language, because their curriculum developers believe that things like science can be taught. For example, if you're teaching sanitation, you don't need to say that in English. You can tell the learners how to maintain sanitation in the local language. New secondary curriculum, of course, now here it will not apply because the study is in primary. Students' background, this time also we did not look at the students' background. We only did that some years back. Did you consider the other special education needs other than the blind and deaf? No, we only looked at the blind and those who are deaf, and those are the ones we assess. Maybe a colleague can come in.
All right, let's hear from your colleague, Joyce Ebal, the manager. A quick response to some of the issues that the listeners have put across.
Yeah, I think my colleague has responded to all of them. As I mentioned that we are supposed to carry out this at the secondary level as well, but this is not done yet. And our biggest challenge is actually funds in carrying out this assessment. But we believe that in the near future, we are going to carry out assessment at the secondary level, and we'll be able to respond to some of these issues. A-level curriculum, all those are not the issues which are related to this study. With the thematic curriculum, as he has mentioned, I think there was a misunderstanding of the implementation of this curriculum. The local language was supposed to be used in P1 from P1 up to P3 to help learners transit into English. while English is taken as a subject. And assessment here, we are looking at English as a subject, where the learners, all the learners are supposed to be subjected to the same curriculum in that learning. So use of the local language to help them learn also the English words, as they are just coming from home and they don't know English, and if the teacher starts using English as the medium of instruction, then the learners would not be able to pick. So this would not have any bearing onto the difficulties that they're expressing in the language.
All right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line, which is 0703-090-090. Our topic of discussion today, we are looking at the latest report on the progress in education and our children learning. And I'm speaking to Ms. Joyce Ebal, the Manager, National Assessment of Progress in Education. That is an organization that is under UNEB. Mr. Kenneth Jomanyol, a Senior Research Officer in charge of data management at the same institution. Now, let's move forward. In some of the comments that you made, Ms. Ebal, you talked about the responsibility of parents to actually contribute to the learning of their children. And of course, this brings in a number of issues. There are people who say that, look, they pay taxes to the government should be able to provide. Some people will tell you that when they used to go to school a long time ago, they would find books at school, Government of Uganda not for sale. I'm sure you might have used some of those books. And there are people who say you'll find pencils, you'll find pens, and you'll find several things there. And they find it very difficult to tell them that maybe you should buy textbooks, you should be the one providing feeding to your child. What do you think should be the role of the parents in that context in terms of supporting the child to learn?
Thank you. Parents really should not delegate their responsibility totally to government. I think government has tried to come in. We have universal primary education, where government is offering free education to our children. So government is handling the teachers. Government is giving a little bit of capitation grant to these schools. But there are small things that parents should not run away from. Parents should not wait for government to buy pencils for their children, to buy excess book for their children, to buy clothes for their children to go to school. In most of our villages, our parents have resigned from looking after their children. And they expect government to provide everything 100%, which is not possible. This becomes a heavy burden to the few taxpayers who are in the country. So I still want to urge parents to come in to support their children.
All right. Mr. Jomanyol, would you like to supplement on that?
Yeah, I think I can only agree with her that indeed, as government tries to do what it should do, the parents should also continue to do, because there are things that government cannot do. For example, what came out in the study are things like provision of psychological support, especially in the rural areas. Learners reach primary 6 when they're beyond the recommended age, for example. So they need support from parents, need counseling. Usually when they're at that age, they're tempted to go for casual labor and absent themselves from school. So there the parents can again come in and talk to the learners and encourage them to come to school. Yeah, so there are many things that parents need to do, which the government may not be able to do.
All right. We are coming towards the end of this show. Maybe we need to run through some of the key recommendations from this study as we prepare to get out of this studio. So overall, if you can just do a recap, what are some of the key highlights and then the recommendations that you're making from this report?
Yeah, thank you. Overall, we are seeing progress, that is, as a country, in numeracy, but I think there is still a problem with the literacy in English, and therefore more effort needs to be done there. We have highlighted districts which are in medical, you can call them critically ill. So I think those districts or the leaders who are in the district need to strategize. We had the opportunity in 2019 to move around the countries, especially countries which had less than a quarter of their learners doing well or meeting the minimum. We talked to them. Some of them have improved, which is good. So I think districts also need to benchmark with the districts which are doing well, and they can see the little that they can do. And also we need training, short courses for teachers to highlight them, because there are some areas, some weaknesses which we see are coming from the teachers. For example, we see learners do not know the difference between what we call the bar graph and the histogram, because we use the histogram for things that we cannot count, data we cannot count. Bar graph, we use them for things we count. But you find teachers are using the histogram. And one of the reasons is that teachers are just copying from the pamphlets which are not approved by government. They're also there on the market. So,
but why are they using pamphlets?
Maybe that is for another day. But some of them, for some reason, they
why are they using pamphlets in an era where there are textbooks? That would be the question.
Okay, some of them claim they do not have the textbooks. Then some of them also think the pamphlets are more simplified than the textbooks. So they prefer to use the pamphlets, some of which have wrong information, which they transfer to the learners, and we see them coming up. Yeah, so those would be some of the issues.
All right, we have more comments that are actually coming in. Can the panelists clarify whether the teachers brought out the issues of salary disparities, since their research covered subjects that are regarded as arts subjects? You know, disparities in how teachers are actually being paid. Does it affect how pupils perform? I know some of these issues are not part of your study, but they are cross-cutting issues within the education sector. And then we have another comment. It's a big lie. Local languages, they can't even find teachers that speak the local languages well enough to teach in local languages. When will our schools and learners stop being? When will our schools and learners stop being guinea pigs? That's a comment there from that listener. Another listener, Kamgo Fred Keita, listening in from Kira Municipality, writes and says, "Good evening, Spectrum. My comments about the new curriculum. Don't you think that you should have prepared first the teachers in universities and other tertiary institutions first before rolling out rolling out to the learners in lower secondary schools? What is going to happen to a current senior 4 student in the new curriculum who will be joining senior 5 next year, 2025, whose curriculum A-level has not been in place yet? Otherwise, the new curriculum is excellent and ideal for learners since it's hands-on." I think this question actually requires to bring here the Minister of Education and Sports to respond to some of these issues. And also, they suggest that people do not understand the clear mandate of the institutions that are within the education sector. But very quickly, let's hear from you as we come to the end of the show, Ms. Joyce Ebal.
Yeah, as you have mentioned, some of these questions we cannot respond to them. It's more or less for Ministry of Education and maybe the National Curriculum Development Center, the developers of the curriculum. As here, we are from UNEB, the assessment body. So we come in to evaluate what is taking place. So with the National Assessment of Progress in Education, and in particular for this assessment was focused on to the primary. With our interaction with the teachers